crazy because a little bit before that time, I remember going to this stuff that don't nobody know. I used to when I first was starting, I was going to real estate meetings, and it was a Caucasian lady. She didn't know like how she would say stuff sometimes, but it was kind of rude sometimes. But she
Mm.
didn't mean it by that way. So it was one time, it was a group meeting, probably 20 people. She said, "How many of y'all don't own a property? Raise your hand if you don't own a property." I was the only one that raised my hand. And then she asked me why in front of everyone.
And we back.
You're good, man.
And
Man,
we back.
introduce yourself, man. Then we can get into the conversation, man.
What's up, y'all? As you can see, this is the roommate investor. Yeah, I've been a entrepreneur and a full-time worker. I started my entrepreneur journey in about 2016. It took me pretty much a year to get started. I spent the first year just learning, trying to grow, staying inside the house, working two jobs, getting my credit right. And then I was finally able to jump in 2017, and I've been going at it ever since.
That's dope. Yeah, he's leaving a lot out, and we'll get into more of that later on. So the first time me and you met was actually at Merrimack. So the property that my business partner at the time, shout out to my boy Jason. He and I were doing a flip on Merrimack. So you weren't. I thought you were flipping at that time, or were you not flipping that time?
No, actually, I've never flipped a property. I've just been buying, burring, and renting properties this whole time.
So at that time, when you came to the site, you were just there asking questions.
Yeah. What I would do on Sundays, I would like to go open houses. That's something you could do as a date, something you could do by yourself. But it was a way for me to keep myself in the game. You know, seeing nice houses, meeting good people. You never know who you're going to run into. So instead of me sitting on the couch, I just said, let me go look at a couple houses, go to Zillow, pull up open houses in my area. I would find 3 or 4, go look, maybe invite a girl or two, have a nice little interesting walkthrough. And yeah, that's how I met you.
All right, so let me backpedal that. I had the story all the way wrong. I was under the impression that by that time you were flipping already. So you were
No,
just in there.
I probably had one property during that time,
Okay.
maybe two. Yeah.
Okay. Were you in school then, or you were out of school? You were just working
No,
at
I
that
was
time.
out of school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me backpedal then, man. I want to approach this in a completely different new way then. So let me ask you this then, man. So with entrepreneurship, and I think you coined that perfectly. I think you're beyond real estate investor at this point. I honestly, and I give you all the kudos for that. Anytime you and I talk, and it's just an update, like what you got going on as far as the real estate space, you've grown that and scaled it into more of a brand versus it just being on my properties. So we'll get into that later on, but let me backtrack a little bit. So your first intro to real estate, maybe even entrepreneurship, was that recently, or is that something that you've always been exposed to at a young age? Like, tell me the story about how you got into real estate or entrepreneurship, period.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people actually don't know. Like when I was 8 or 9, I remember living in a shelter with like my 5 brothers and sisters for like 2, 3 weeks or whatever. So once we finally got out and lived in a place, I was always an entrepreneur at heart. I was shoveling snow every winter. I would come home on a weekend like $300-400 shoveling snow. I was hustling like little dumb stuff, stealing candy and selling it, stealing GameStop games and selling it. I will also like cut grass, rake leaves, do stuff like that. And I'm not condoning those things, but I'm just letting people know where I come from because I would never do that now.
Where are you
But
from originally?
Alexandria, Virginia, Stafford, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom actually, she was in and out of jail when I was young, maybe like between 4 and 7. And then we got into church and we grew up in the church. And ever since we got into church, things just catapulted from there. And now my mom, she's bird one house. She's flipping 2 houses currently right now. She owns a new construction home that's worth 500,000. So she kind of has that grit in her too. And I think that's where it came from. I mean, we're pretty similar.
Yeah.
But I just think it came from once that happened, once I was already grinding as a kid and as a teenager, when I got to college, I just said, man, I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be regular. I don't want to be no, I can't. And then that's why I found a network marketing company. And so I did that for 6 months. I ended up getting like 15 to 20 people on my team, but nobody was really doing anything. I said, man, I'm tired of doing stuff where I have to depend on other people. So doing a network marketing company, it gave me the right mindset though. So a lot of people look down on network marketing, but I was introduced to millionaires. I was seeing Bentleys, I was saying work ethic. And I was grinding with that. I was standing up, waking up early, getting people to the meetings or whatever. And it worked out well for accumulating people on my team. I had to rely on other people to do their part. And I realized everybody is not like me. So I said, I have to do something where I'm in control of my own day. I'm not depending on nobody else. I'm not waiting on nothing. I'm making my own destiny happen. That's why I found Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's how I got into real estate. You'll get to a point where a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people is chasing the dollar. That's how it may have started. But then the more you start learning, it's a natural progression. I was just telling somebody this today, like why I make YouTube videos now. They said, well, you're doing it for money. I said, I'm not making no money with YouTube probably for 2 years. I got 70 subscribers. But I said, this is like because I'm going to Chicago. But when I was meeting up with my friend, I said, we got to make 1 or 2 videos while I'm there. Because I'm not going to just waste my time. They think I'm doing it for money, but it's just like, it's who I am now. If I had $1 million, I would still be looking at houses, flipping, whatever. It's just who I am. And then so it's like, it naturally comes. You know what your next move is going to be because it's naturally going to come. You're not going to have to go looking, whether you're praying, fasting, or if you're staying in your lane, when you're not going to chase things, but you're just letting it come to you, you're going to automatically know what's the next thing to do. It's going to come natural. Yeah.
I love that. No, I love that. I've learned and I've learned when you're chasing after things, man, it makes everything so much more complicated. It really does. Because I feel as though when you're chasing something, then it's truly like, a lot of my answers are faith-based, but I've learned too in the struggle, and I talk to you about this all the time, that I've always had a struggle with always trying to do things my way. So I'm always driving it my way. But I'm in a position now, like doing these conversations like this, where I'm like, I'm just letting go and kind of seeing exactly where God takes me. Some people use the word universe. Mine is faith-based. So I said, wherever God is going to take me. And the funny thing is, when I actually do that and I'm not chasing after the dollar, things still come to pass. Like for me being here, working for the company that I'm working for, I wasn't chasing after this. I was actually in a position to where I said, you know what? I think I'm going to let go of real estate just because it was a lot. I was working with investors, and we can get into that conversation as well, but working with investors, and, investors have this, especially investors who are specifically only providing capital, they have this manner with them, whereas, hey, I don't care what time I'm calling you, pick up the phone. And it just wasn't. For me, it wasn't conducive because I remember vividly 11:30 at night, just shutting down the kids. I get a call from one of my investors. I don't pick up the first time. It's 11:30 at night. I'm laying in bed with my wife, and called back 3 times immediately. So I get out of the bed, and then as soon as I get out the bed, it's a checklist. Hey, what happened with this? Where is this? Where did this money go for that? And I just in that moment, I say, I can't. This is for me specifically. It is where I am right now, having little kids. I don't want that lifestyle. So for me, I had to like really exit right and to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna find a different option. And funny enough, when I did that and said, I'm completely letting go, even though the money was good, I say I'm completely letting go. Then that's when I landed this gig that actually provided not only did it replace everything I did from a real estate perspective, but also it was just a better package altogether.
And that goes to the natural progression, how you were saying, you have to listen to yourself as well. Like, you got to listen to what's going on, listen to your body, listen to your mind. We're going to try to fight it, but we know what we should do. When you have to question it, then you probably shouldn't do it. My mom called me, you think I should get this house because I'm going through this? I'm like, the answer, because when it's natural progression, you're not going to have to question it. And so just like you, where I'm at in my life right now, I can't deal with what I was dealing with when I first started, but that was that natural progression. Now I'm looking for more guarantees now, whereas up front, I was taking more risk with different students and different people in one house. Now I'm looking for more family oriented people with families and kids and things like that now, because now I'm in the next phase of my life.
You have a unique operating model, hence the roommate investor. Let's talk about early days, because I know it's shaping differently now. You know, your operating model is slightly shifting based on, like you said, kind of the lifestyle that you're looking for now. But early on, how did you start off with the roommate investor?
I was doing something called rent hacking, really. I was in college. All my friends was so we all lived in different places, but we were all very close. We was like a little fraternity, like four of us. So one summer I stayed at NSU and they all left. So I was like, man, y'all, we need to find a house. It was more for parties and being cool guys or whatever. They was gone. I was driving the streets at NSU every day and looking for rent signs, and I found one. And we all paid like it was five of us. We paid like 400 each. So then I graduated college. I rented my own property. At this point, I'm 21, 22. So now all my friends are recent grads as well. So now they might be working on their masters or have entry level jobs like me. So I rented the house by myself and then I subleased the rooms. They were paying 400 each. I was paying 300. It was three of us in a 3-bed, 1-bath house. So I was rent hacking. So for my first 4 or 5 years out of college, I was just rent hacking. I moved. My first rent was like maybe 1,200, but then I found another house where the rent was like 850, and it was 3 bedrooms, and I did the same thing. So I did that for a few years, and then that's what landed me to my first house. So at that point, I knew, okay, I need to find a house near a college. Clearly, the college that I went to. So once I got prepared and ready, it took me a year from the time I learned about real estate and I pulled my credit. The lender was like, "You've been contacting me for a year." And she said, "Now you're ready." And she still follows me to this day. So she was there with me from day one. And so now, I found that first property. It was a 3-bed, and I turned into a 4-bedroom, and I put 4 students in there. Pretty much probably made my money back and had to be 2 to 4 months.
Yeah, exactly. For the down payment and everything for that particular property.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did FHA for that property?
Yeah, FHA rehab loan, 203K.
Oh, straight up. So for those who don't know, so you want to explain the FHA 203 color?
If you,
So there's a hack that's really popular, and I tell people this. I've been really advertising. So people still call me on, yo, Pat, if you were to buy a property now, what would you do? And I'm a big fan of leveraging resources that are there. So the same process it'll take anyone to buy a single family home is literally the same process to buy a 4-unit dwelling or apartment building. And one of the hacks you could use is a FHA 203K loan. So FHA is a lending program that you can actually use that allows you to only put down 3.5% down for the property. So just throwing out numbers, if the property is $100,000, then for down payment, we're not talking about closing costs or all the other fees that come with that, right? I think sometimes it could be misleading because a lot of people think you just need a down payment to buy a property, and that's not the case. But I want to focus on FHA specifically. But you got me going back to my real estate days, boy. So for a 3.5% loan, basically for that $100,000 house, you're only putting down $3,500 for the down payment. But what he was able to do is actually use another sub tier that's part of that 203, or excuse me, part of the FHA loan is a 203K loan. So now you're able to not only finance the purchase of the home, but also finance the rehab that's necessary for the house. So numbers, for instance, if a house is 100,000 just for the sale of it, but it costs another 10,000 to fix it up, you're going to put down 3.5% down of the 100 to secure the property, and then the 10,000 to actually do the rehab. So you're actually doing a 3.5% down payment for the $110,000 total. So when you I'm good. I explained that right? Check me, man.
yeah,
It's been a minute.
yeah. So for actual numbers, I bought that house. It was about 62,500.
And where? Norfolk?
Yeah, in Spartan Village, those townhouses.
Crazy.
And the rehab was about 36,000. So I was all in for around 95 after everything. And it was renting for like 500 a room, pretty much. So it's rent for 2,000, and the payment is 600 a month.
What did you do for the rehab? Like, how much? What was all included for the rehab?
Just normal, just cosmetic, new cabinets, new counter, paint, flooring, a little bit of framing, and I framed up a bedroom as well in the closet. No, it wasn't nothing crazy, new vanity.
Nah, that's solid. That's solid. So that was the first property. So to bridge the story a little bit, so early on, you were renting out houses, basically. You're on the lease, but then you had other people who were kind of subleasing the rooms from you. And you're just
Yeah.
collecting the cash, putting that up somewhere, stacking it, being disciplined about it. And then fast forward, you did that for how long? How many years?
Well, we're in 2023. I still have 5 roommates. So,
Oh,
yeah, I'm 30. Well, I turned 32 in June, but it's just like it's pretty much who I am. Like
yeah.
I don't really have a reason to stop. I like having roommates. The way I did learn systems that I put in place to make sure that we all get along, from whether it's using the washer, from the laundry room. No, I just said that, sorry. Whether using the washer or having quiet hours or having kitchen rules, things like that. We all just stick to ourselves. You know, you would never know that it was 6 of us in the house. You would think it was only 2 or 3 max. So yeah, I'm still doing it. Still having a good time with it. I always encourage people to do it. The way I look at it, I tell someone, "What do you like to do?" Say they like to travel. Say by having one roommate, you could take one flight every month just by having one roommate. If you have 3 roommates, that's 3 flights in 1 month. I'm saying $500 flight. Your roommate's paying $500. Everybody who's listened to me has been successful. Not one person has not been successful. The first girl, she's no money, no savings. She saved $10,000 in like 8 months. Second girl, got 2 roommates. She always tells me thank you. She started taking trips like crazy. Every Iceland, all these places, and these are people with normal jobs making less than $50,000 a year.
Yo, that's clever. That is the ultimate lifestyle hack. If you are single, I guess you could do it if you are married. It'll be tough with kids, but I like the system that you have. And my wife ain't doing it. I'm being straight up.
Yeah.
But there might be some couples who are willing to do that. But I think the way you fortify that is, you said it perfectly. So you have systems in place right now where I'm assuming it's on the lease. Is that you put it on the lease, like what the quiet hours are?
I talked to him up front, and then
Okay.
actually I probably should have put it in the lease, but I put it on the sheet and put it in the kitchen. And
Okay.
as far as the washing machine and stuff, we kind of just talk about it verbally. But now I'm only accepting certain kind of people. I'm not accepting anyone. I'm looking at your job, the type of job schedule you have. I'm looking at the words that you say. People will tell on themselves. You ask a few questions, you know, one of the 48 laws of power, you need to listen and speak less. People are going to tell on themselves, tell you, and that's how you will know if it's a good fit or not. I don't screen. I just started screening people probably the last 6 months. I started real estate in 2016. I just started screening the last 6 months. I know that sounds bad. However, I've only had a couple of bad apples, maybe 2 or 3 in 6 years, 7 years, because of my intuition based on the conversation. Now, it's not recommended, but that's just how I operate. I'm a little different. But I do screen people now. But yeah, that conversation and meeting is important. I don't really let people move in without me meeting them. But it will happen on occasion. But yeah, having the right systems in place, and just think about what is it that you like to do. By doing this, you can amplify whatever it is that you like to do. If it's helping your family, if it's helping your church, if it's starting a business, anything that you want to do, this is a way to do it without working a second job, without adding more hours to your schedule. Imagine doing this and working a second job. So you want to see how you can get things to compound. You don't have to do it forever, but compound it a little bit, and then it's going to take off like a snowball.
Nah, no, I love that. I love that. And you said it perfectly. Having the systems in place will allow you to scale it, one, and also you're making second job income without having a second job. That's clever. That's
Yeah.
clever.
So
And
I had a job, and I had roommates, and I had a second job.
that's clever. So where are you finding these people though? So anyone else that wants to go into this model, where are you finding your people?
These days, Furnish Finder, which is mostly traveling professionals, I like them because where I'm at in my life, I need a certain type of caliber person. You don't have to use that. You can find good people on Craigslist. It's just you're more likely to run into a bad apple or whatever, which is fine. You screen, you meet them, you find out what's important to you, and you only pick people based on that criteria. You'll be fine. But I was doing Craigslist. I was doing the student website. These days you can do Facebook. You can use Facebook for everything. And Furnish Finder. There's another site called Roomies, Roomster. Uh, yeah, those sites pretty much. Airbnb, that's another one. Yeah.
I was going to ask. I wanted to segue into that because you got me interested in Airbnb. So I was looking at this property, and D knows his property very well. So because I was actually going to have him walk me through the process of converting over to an Airbnb. I didn't jump on it though. So it was that condo, I think it was on 28th Street. I'm not going to say the street, but in Norfolk, VA. And I wanted that property bad, man, but the bylaw scared me, so I didn't jump on it. I don't have any regrets, but then I am curious to see exactly would you have jumped on it. So it was for context, it was a 2-bedroom condo, 6 total units in the building, right? And my goal was to do Airbnb for it to secure the property about 125,000, if I remember correctly, for the listing. 125,000. It seemed to be turnkey. We would have done the due diligence of doing the home inspection and all that jazz, but I didn't jump on it, man, because I've been burnt by HOAs before, so I didn't want to go through that already. What were your thoughts on that property? Would you have done that? And then I want to get into some of the Airbnb convos.
I did look into that, but like I said in the beginning, I want to make my destiny in my own hands. And by getting a property where you have to rely on an HOA, now you can't have your own destiny, somebody else's destiny. So the only way something like that will work is if you bought multiple. Remember, I think I asked you, can I buy 3? Would I own the HOA? I have to be in control of what happens.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't buy just one unit. Now, if it was a normal rental, sure. But if I know I'm trying to do something creative, I'm gonna have to follow somebody else's rules. I make my own rules, and I want to follow the rules that I make.
And that's so clever. So I'm gonna add a little bit more to that. So my personal story with HOAs, and this isn't to feed more into that conversation, but I want to offer any type of information for anyone that wants to get into investing or whatever the case is. You have to have your barometers, and you also have to have your process, right? I think everyone has their strategy. It's probably the best way to categorize it. Everyone has their strategy. So the problem with HOAs is that unless you run that HOA and you're actively involved, it's hard for you to control exactly what happens. They made the decisions on a lot of things. So before we moved here, we had a primary home back home, back in VA, and we were renting it out unbeknownst to the HOA, because by laws we weren't able to. And I offered everything. I said, hey, we'll pay for the lawyer to change the bylaws, because there's money that's involved with that. They have to go back in and change all the the text on the format and the documents and so on and so forth, and they have to file it with the city and everything like that. But we were so adamant about keeping the property, we said, hey, we'll pay for it. So we saw the property, made profit on it, but the problem is this property that we had was prime real estate. So this is next door to your major campus that's back home, university. It was next door to some of the shops that a lot of that's growing right now, where a lot of your coffee shops are popping up right now. One of the top hospitals in VA was actually right there within walking distance from us. But because of this HOA, we were forced to sell our property prematurely. Now, mind you, we made a profit when we sold it, so I thank God for that. However, though, if we kept it, the property renting it out would have netted us, after paying everything, would have netted us close to about $800 a month. That's something I would have kept for my family, because my girls could have kept that. We could have added that into our portfolio and kept in the portfolio. But because of the HOA, we were forced to sell it. So I was hot about it. So
if you knew about the HOA,
yeah,
before you moved, would you still have moved?
So the problem with this situation, no, I wouldn't do it. If there's any HOA, then that's why I walked away from the condo.
No. I'm saying you moved from Virginia to Washington, but if you knew about the HOA bylaws, would that have made you stay in Virginia?
No, because at the time we moved here, I was under the impression I had to be in the office by a certain time. So it was
Mhm.
one of those things that say, hey, look, we need you here because within 6 months, you're going to be reporting into the office. And mind you, I don't even know where my office is right now. Yeah, everyone's still remote, you know. But but hindsight, if I didn't have to move, then yeah, we probably would have stayed. But yeah, you and I, we talked about this. Moving was more than just the property though. Like moving over here was a reset for us. Like
Yeah.
we operated in Norfolk, VA for over a decade, like close to 15 years. So we were at a point where we needed a change. So it came at the right time. So I don't want to, say we would have stayed specifically for the property because we know there'll be other properties in the future. But were we upset about it? Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't do with HOAs now. Like unless it's gonna be my primary home that I have no intention on renting out or doing any type of investment on or for, I'm not dealing with HOAs, man. So Airbnb model, man. Let's talk about that. I know you're starting to convert more into the roommate investor style that you currently have now. Are you completely there yet with your entire portfolio, or you still have a couple of Airbnbs?
So actually, where I'm focusing and doubling down on right now is Section 8 housing.
Oh, okay.
So right now, I only have 3 Airbnbs. I really don't want to add any more. I'm doing self-managing. So I just have 3 Airbnbs, and I'm focusing everything else with Section 8. My primary home will be my only rooming house left, which I rent to traveling nurses, traveling professionals, and that's pretty much my model now. So at first, I had all rooming houses. Then I had rooming houses with some Airbnbs. Now I'm kind of getting away from Airbnb too. Airbnb can be a hassle too. And now with Airbnb, I have to rely on other people. I have to rely on Airbnb's rules. You have to rely on reviews. You have to rely on your city and the city expectations. I don't do well following other people's rules. Like I said, I want to make my own rules. So I'm not doing much with Airbnb. They wanted me to like plant trees and go to city council meetings and say I'm not doing all that. I said I'm good. I'm looking for more steady and more relaxed now and trying to just maintain now. And that's where I'm at. So yeah, so right now I'm focusing more on long-term Section 8 with three Airbnbs right now.
That's dope. Yeah, not section. I think Section 8 is a hack. I really think that, and hack in a good way. I'll coin it as a lifestyle hack. I really think it makes sense, and then we can get into that too, because there's pros and cons to everything. The way I look at Section 8, it makes you an honest landlord. Let me put it that
Mhm.
way. But going back to your statement on Airbnb is tough right now because just like you said, you're at the helm of whatever process and whatever programs that they're putting in place right now. They're
Mhm.
shutting down cities. Like they're even limiting the amount that you could personally own. I'm sure there's a workaround, around that. Maybe through you have the houses listed as different LLCs and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure. But I know Atlanta got hit pretty bad, where I think the max you could own is 2 Airbnbs, I believe.
And one
Uh,
had to be your primary.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
crazy to me, man. And I love what you said earlier as far as getting to a point to where one, you're converting more into a lifestyle investor, right? Where you want to continue to do the things that you want, less overhead, less pain, less headaches, and so on and so forth. But the way to do it, you gotta kind of control your destiny when it comes to these products, man. These houses, and
And
you're go ahead.
even though with Section 8, you do have to follow their guidelines,
Mhm.
but their guidelines is only there to protect you and protect the tenant. So you're following the guidelines, but you're improving your property. They just want you to have a good property. So if you're not, say if you don't see a property for 3 years, there's stuff going on that you may not even know about. So Section 8 does have its rules, but those rules are helping you. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you telling me this list of 10 things because these are legitimate things for the most part. Some stuff could be petty, but it's fine. It's a $10 fix, a $20 fix. It's not the end of the world.
I'm a big fan of Section 8, and I think it's a misconception that they're going to mess with your property because you have to
Uh-huh.
understand that no matter who you have in your property, whether they're Section 8 or a traditional renter, your property's going to get messed up.
Uh-huh.
No matter it does not matter who's in there. There's a chance that it's going to get messed up because renters, period, some of them at least, have a mentality, well, this is my house anyway, so there's a less of a care factor there. The beauty about Section 8, though, is there's checks and balances across the board. So the people that actually run the Section 8 programs locally, they actually check on the properties. And not only are they checking it on the tenant's behalf, but they're also checking on the landlord's behalf. So like I said, it makes everyone fair game in the whole situation. And then if you were to lose a job, for instance, Section 8 is going to pay you. The state is going to pay you what the market value is. On top of that, every year they're doing another assessment of, you know what, your property value actually went up. So we're actually going to increase your payment. So I think Section 8 is, if anyone is investing, I would definitely do Section 8. We have our duplex back home, and where we're probably going to do Section 8. The people who are in there now have been there for a long time, and the property needs work, man. So what I'm waiting on, that's why I haven't moved on anything else. What I'm waiting for is for them to move out. We're going to probably rehab it and then probably convert it to Section 8. So, man, what else you got going on, man? What you got going on? What projects you got? What's going on with you?
So I we actually just got another property I'm working on 2 right now. We just got another one under contract. So I have 3. I'm working on 3 new ones right now, 2 in process. 1 closes next month. And then I'm also working on converting 3 Section 8 properties right now. So I'm basically working on 6 properties at once right now by myself. But it's that natural progression that I was talking about. So, I met Amber Lee and I met her team. They work with Terrion, who's a general contractor around here.
Shout out Terrion.
Yeah. So I met them, then I met a good contracting team. So it's like once you get those pieces in place, I have 2 investors now. So I haven't put money down on a property in over a year. In the last year, I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties in the last year. In the last 12 months, I haven't put any money down. So that's that, but I stayed in my lane. The only reason why people feel comfortable giving me money because I stayed in my lane. I didn't go try to do 3, 4, 5 things at one time. And they see that. And they also see the work ethic. But I'm working, but to me, I feel like I'm not working. I'm just living my normal life.
Yeah.
This is just who I am at this point in time. But it makes sense for somebody who lives in, one of them, my investors live in New Jersey, one lives in California. Where's the cheaper houses? It's here in Virginia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really a deal for them because most of the time they're getting their money back in 6 months. And they have a house. So it's a win-win situation, but it's that natural progression. I have the team now. So everything is just much easier. At first, it was hard finding the contractor. I went through 6, 7 realtors, but now everything is just flowing like clockwork, and I'm not chasing or I'm not trying. So they're bringing me the houses. They're sending me the houses. So that's where I'm at now. Just living my life. I'm working on getting properties under contract, but at the end of the day, I'm just living my normal life, going to the gym, while I'm driving to the gym, looking at houses, doing some studying or at work, a house pop up, just look at a house real quick. I'm not putting much effort in at this point, just maintain and just keeping the ball rolling, networking, talking to people. Same thing we all doing. I'm just making money from it.
You're in your bag, man. You're in your bag right now, dog. I'm telling you, you're in your bag right now. Now when I say I always give everyone the roses, man, but specifically with you, I remember that first convo at Merrimack, just asking questions. Hey, what would you do here? What are you guys doing there? And you when I say you had this curiosity spirit, this curious spirit, man. And I think that's like you said, I love how you said it, man. The natural progression. Just from there, those seeds kept being planted and kept growing, and then now you're doing your thing, man. So
it's crazy because a little bit before that time, I remember going to this stuff that don't nobody know. When I first was starting, I was going to real estate meetings, and it was a Caucasian lady. She didn't know how she would say stuff sometimes, but it was kind of rude sometimes. But she didn't mean it by that way. So it was one time, it was a group meeting, probably 20 people. She said, "How many of y'all don't own a property? Raise your hand if you don't own a property." I was the only one that raised my hand. And then she asked me why in front of everyone. So it's just good to remember. I forget about stuff like that sometimes, but it's good to see, that it does work. and you can do what you want to do, if you put your mind to it.
That's facts, man. That's facts. So where can people follow you, man? You're in the content creation space right now. You're on all the platforms. So what's the best way for people to get in contact
The
with you?
roommate investor, best way is Instagram and YouTube. I'm really focusing on Instagram and YouTube, trying to get information out and just trying to relay the message. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to buy 10 houses, but I mean, I feel like we should all at least have one or two,
Yeah.
and just focus on maintaining. And I think based off that, good things will come.
No, I agree, man. And I was going to let you go, but I forgot. I went on Instagram and I polled a couple of people that wanted to ask you a question.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch. I actually had about 17 questions, but I'm gonna do the top two because there's this one that kept reoccurring. So if you could start over again, what would you do differently, if anything?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like I pretty much did mostly everything right. I would say take it more serious up in the beginning. I didn't really take it. I was always taking it serious, but more like this. But what really got me was one, when breaking up with my ex-girlfriend, and two, when COVID came. And that was when I would start going from this to going from this. We got that time with COVID and everything. And I was focusing more on myself.
Yeah.
So I would say just take it more serious in the beginning. I had missed a mortgage payments at one point. I was still a little young, maybe like 26 or something, because I was out taking a road trip with friends to Florida. And I kept getting 800 number calls. I don't answer 800, and I have a missed mortgage payment. So that would probably be the main thing, was take it more serious. I was already serious, but really taking it serious. And part of that comes with wisdom and my age, things like that. But the earlier you get started, the better. So even if you have kids, do what you can do to get them started early, whether that's working on their credit when they're still a teenager. Start looking at how you can build business credit, personal credit for them. But I feel like if I have a kid, I feel like they should be able to buy a house by the time they're 18, or if I can find how to do it at 16 or 15, I will, which you probably can, with LLCs and things like that. And but I'm going to make sure that they work for it. I'm not going to give them, anything. I would rather them work for it, me give it to them on the back end, and then give it to them on the front end. I'll enable them, but I'm not going to give it to them. But just again, you got to get started early, but it's never too late. So early meaning today, right now.
Yeah.
You can't change what happened then, but you can change what happens now. So this would be your early, the day that you hear this.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And then you actually dropped a lot of gems in that also. But my last question for you, there's a lot of people who are just scared to start. I was trying to find a better word, but they're scared to start. If you were to give them any type of advice, how would they begin?
Always look for ways to limit your risk. The more answers that you have to some of the potential risks, the more confident you're going to be. So my risk was, what if I can't make the mortgage payment? That my property I'm in is $2,000, but I know because the property is so nice, I know I'm gonna always be able to get one or two people in. So that's a way to limit the risk. Maybe buy a house on a foundation instead of a slab. You're limiting your risk. Houses on slabs is a lot more. When a maintenance thing come up, it could be a big issue. Making sure that you're getting your home inspections, make sure you're networking, make sure you have maybe a home warranty. I just really got into home warranties. You're limiting your risk. Do what you need to do so that you feel safe. So I feel like the more risk you can limit, then the more confidence you'll have to get started. My number one way, of course, is by having roommates.
I love that. I love that. I was going to ask. Let me get it more granular on that one. What would you do? Airbnb off the bat? Would you do single family? Would you try to get a duplex or a quad? Like, what if you going back? What's the first type of property you would probably want to do first?
That's a good question. I would say rooming. I would still say rooming house
Okay.
over Airbnb and over section. Rooming house, you can get a lot of potential. The benefits, the main benefit with rooming house is your gross net income and what that looks like to the banking system to allow you to get more properties. Even if you don't make that much money net, they're looking at your gross. And once you multiply your gross times your full-time salary, you're easily able to qualify again for low down payment loans. So just that alone, when you start getting into Airbnb, you have to, that's a business. You have to run that for 2 years now. The thing with multifamily, at least in my area, I know in light areas, it's more in the more hood or C-class neighborhoods in my area. So that could be a personal preference. And I don't know how well the rooming house system will work with the duplex. It depends on the location. You have a duplex in College Town, sure. I do like the appreciation that you get on single family homes better than the duplexes, triplexes. But of course, you will get more cash flow with the duplexes, triplexes as well.
Yeah.
But it depends on what kind of person you are, because now you're looking at managing more people up front. And of course, you got property management, but I don't believe in property management for beginners, because you need to know how this works. You need to know how your house works. Nobody can tell me about my house. I lived in this house. I lived in all these houses. I know what's going on. I know that in this area, this house, it gets cold at this point in time. And this part, I know ants get in sometimes. So I already know, everything about the property. So I believe in self-managing in the beginning. And I really like single family houses and neighborhoods that have nice single family houses, but the house that you're buying isn't the nicest. That's easy. It's easy to drive a neighborhood and see 2,000 square foot homes with new siding, and then see a 2,000 square foot home with bad siding. So I think it's easy. Anybody can see the potential in a single family home in a good neighborhood, but it's not a great house.
I love that. That's well said, man. That was well said. Yo, D, man, I appreciate you, dog. I know we've been trying to link for the last few months. Actually, I was gonna say weeks, and now it's been about 2 months, man. But man, as always, man, I appreciate you. I know you and I are gonna wrap later on this week anyway, man. So hey, I appreciate you, man. And yo, just keep spreading the news, man. Keep the content going. Keep up with the YouTube, keep up with the IG, because a lot of information that is needed, especially from someone that's actually in the field, and you're actively in the field. So yo, keep moving, man. Keep moving.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well,
my man.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have much more coming.
1,000%. Yeah, this won't be the last. Hey man, I appreciate y'all, and as always, thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond the Resume. Go check out my boy D at The Roommate Investor on all platforms: YouTube, Instagram. Even has a website as well where you can kind of see some of the articles that he has pushing out there as well. Just stay plugged in. Yeah, hey, that's it. Appreciate you, man.